Welcome back. My guest is MP for Ningo Prampram Samuel Nate George. He's known as Jata, and he's one of many interesting Samuels in politics. You have Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, his friend. The two had the longest vetting. You were vetted 5.5 hours. I think he was vetted the same amount of time. I suspect if Sami Jemfi had been nominated as a minister, his vetting was probably longer. Because he also, Sami, there's also Sami Ewuku.
Yeah.
And then which other Sami is controversial?
Samuel Atamensa.
No, he's a different, he's not a politician. So, I mean, which other one is
Samuel Atachia.
Yeah, and then I think Samuel
Abujinapo.
Ah, my God. And then Samuel Atamils. Samuel Atamils is not controversial. No. Samuel Abujinapo, Sami Jemfi, Sami Uku, Sami Jata George.
Oh, am I controversial?
Very, very. You said you had 5 priorities, and the first one was the 1 million coders.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What does that mean? You are going to train people to code 1 million people?
So the 1 million coders is basically what you call maybe a trade name.
Okay.
But it's actually about 1 million digital skills. Okay. So it's about digital skills, equipping people. The world we live in is not a world where we're talking about the future. Artificial intelligence is not the future, it's the present. Internet of Things is all around us. I mean, today you're able to connect your phone to your laptop, to your TV, even your fridge is all connected. And so we're leaving artificial intelligence at this point in time. It's important that we reskill and upskill our people. And so we're looking to have Ghana as that hub that is able to uptake artificial intelligence and be the hub for Africa. Because when you look at AI today, most of the tools and the machine learning models are all Caucasian and Western centered. However, when you look at the demographics of the world, by 2030, 1 in 4 human beings will be African. It's a critical demographic that's not well captured in there. I always use the example of facial recognition. Facial recognition technology that exists today is 99.8% accurate with Caucasian males.
You can't identify your face.
But when it comes to black men, it's 49%. Yeah. 49% accurate. And so you need, but that's because they don't have the data. They don't have to teach the models. And that's why we need to begin to build the data. And so for us, the 1 million coders is tied to a number of other things that we need to do, because you need to then, as you build for the future of the current reality of artificial intelligence, you need to have the skill set. So you need to have data governance people, because your AI models are going to sit on big data. And once you have big data, you must have data governance frameworks in place. You must have cybersecurity in place. And that's what the 1 million coders is doing, is building the critical human capital for the current reality of technology that we're sitting. So we're training people, not just we're going to train people in hardcore coding, but everybody who is doing any program, whether you're doing data forensics or data privacy or data governance, whether you're doing cybersecurity or cloud computing or AI engineering, you will still do basic coding. But we're having all of these other models, which is going to make Ghana a home destination for BPOs. Are these people
secondary school, university? What level of people are these?
Anybody, even if you've never sat in the classroom.
Really? Because some of the courses I'm seeing.
Yes.
Certified cybersecurity professional.
Yes.
Certified network support technician.
Yes.
These things are very wild. Are you saying that SS graduate or JHS graduate can study these things?
Bernard, some of our kids in private schools are beginning to learn cloud computing in year 5.
I understand this, but I'm saying that the courses that the Kofi Annan is going to run.
Yes, we've got
open-ended?
Yes, and we've got multiple layers. There's the beginner, there's the intermediate, there's the advanced. Okay. And so when you get in, even if you have no skill set whatsoever, you start as a beginner.
Okay.
You get the beginner certification, then you can proceed to the next level, which will be the intermediate, and then you have the advanced. And so it's not just meant for young people, even civil servants. We expect that at a certain point in time, we're going to have engagements with the head of civil service. Yeah. Civil servants are supposed to take a model or another, because Bernard, everybody today, you are a journalist. I'm sure you use ChatGPT.
Sometimes.
Absolutely. That's technology. That's Internet of Things. How you use ChatGPT will determine how it even responds to you, whether it's ChatGPT or Grok or Perplexity or whatever. You know, any of those tools you're using, if you're a finance person, you're using analytic tools today to do your spreadsheets. All of this, you need to have training. You cannot be in the civil service and not be AI native. You see, we've been talking about having digitally native people. So that's when people were saying, oh, now you see people CV, they say, I'm proficient in Word, Excel.
You know, Yeah.
People are trying to show they're digital native. Now we're talking about AI natives.
So let me just get this straight. It's not necessarily coding.
No.
Coding will be part.
Yes.
But you have introduced courses to be run by which institution?
So currently with the pilot, we're running with the research and development wing of the ministry, which is the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT.
Just next to Parliament?
Right next to Parliament and the ministry.
So those are, and they are going to offer 6 or 7 modules?
That's just for the pilot.
For the pilot?
For the pilot. In the long run, we're going to be doing over 20 models. Because take, for example, we're almost done with an agreement with Google.
Okay.
To run their program. We're also talking to Amazon about that. And so these are all specialized courses and verticals that are going to come on stream. We have the conversation, we've signed an MOU with MTN, where MTN is also going to be doing some critical support. MTN is building its second AI lab in the whole of Africa. There's only one that MTN has right now in South Africa. They're bringing the second one into Ghana. It's going to be a center of excellence. Today I had a meeting with professors from University of Ghana. There's a joint collaborative program called the Digital Youth Village. That's actually going to be a center of excellence in artificial intelligence that's running there. So you've got all of these verticals. We've got in over 40 proposals. University, UNIA, and Sunyani, the Department of Computer Engineering has brought us a proposal on how they want to partner and train students. In fact, tomorrow, before the launch, there is, thanks to Honorable Haruna Idrisu, I'm having a call with vice chancellors of all public universities. Because again, one of the key things we're going to do is ensure that every university student, before you graduate, and that's one of the things we want to have a conversation with.
This is great. What I need to do as a journalist, I want to know how to track the 1 million. By the way, is 1 million just the sort of the nickname, or do you literally mean that you will train up to 1 million people?
Bernard, if the president finds me worthy and God shows me grace and I sit in that ministry for 4 years, I will bring you specifics, individuals, names.
1 million people.
In fact, and we will do in excess of 1 million.
Yeah, sure.
I would give you in this community, in this district, in this region, in this institution, in this ministry.
And they will all be certificated.
Yes.
At various levels.
So
let's do some maths here.
Yeah.
You are doing 4 regions for starters.
Yes.
And I'm sure about 250 per cohort.
Yes.
So which means that this first pilot,
we're doing 2 streams because of the 24-hour economy.
That will be about,
we're doing 2 streams.
So 4 times.
So about 520. We have about 520 in the 2 streams.
For starters.
For starters.
And you're telling me that in 4 years you can reach 1 million.
Yes.
Explain how that's going to happen.
Okay. So take for example, if I and that's what I was going to with the universities, for example. When we were in the university, they introduced com skills.
Yes, they call it African Studies. But they introduced other core courses for everybody.
Yes, and it said everybody, irrespective of what you are doing, you must do English language, com skills, some 2 credit course. Without that, you won't graduate.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen with the 1 million coders as well. Every university student that will graduate from Ghana will definitely, certainly have to do one of the models as a prerequisite for graduation. These are the kinds of conversations we're having.
So you take all the university students in Ghana who
478,000 currently now in our universities, in just public universities, not even private universities. And then you now talk about the yearly streams of first years that are going to go in.
Speak, universities don't have digital technology as a prerequisite yet?
No.
So you are going to
if you are doing a tech-based course, definitely. But there's no prerequisite for you to do any of the programs we are having a conversation about.
So this is both private and public universities?
Yes, you are going to ask that
everybody before they graduate.
Starting with the public investors, and I'm sure the private investors will come.
Are you going to give them any resources to help them do this?
The ministry is going to be supporting the universities with the logistics.
So by your calculation, the public investors will take about half of this, and the rest will be people who go through these other programs.
We have 280 community information centers. At the moment, we have about 7 functional regional innovation centers. And these are all verticals where we can do trainings in, because the idea is that in every district, you must have a cohort in that district that's trained. Because don't forget, when we're training people to be data governance specialists, reason being that we expect the National Health Insurance Authority to be more data governance sensitive going forward, because when you're talking about taking people's data, health data, for example, it must be managed and handled properly.
Okay.
An institution like the National Health Insurance is present in every district. Do they have a data protection specialist in every district? I believe the answer is no. If that's the case, we need to provide them the critical skill in every district where you can employ local competence to work. Every assembly that's processing data needs to have a data processor. So you need to train people locally. They're all online right now. They need to have cybersecurity specialists who are going to watch what they do. So you're training people in every single district to be able to meet the demand of where we're going as a country.
So are you saying that there are jobs available that require these people to be trained, or you're training these people to create their own jobs?
So what you're doing is, that's why I said you're doing reskilling. There are people who are already in employment who can be reskilled to meet this job. There are people who we're also training who are going to become entrepreneurs. Don't forget, one of the things the ministry is doing is the Innovation and Startup Bill, which is supposed to create a whole innovation ecosystem and startup ecosystem where startups move from being startups into our innovation incubators, and from there move into our accelerator programs. That's where the 50 million FinTech Development Fund kicks in. So everything we're doing is connected. You know, I was telling the lecturers today, the ministry, I see it like the kente cloth. Okay, it's individual strings woven intricately to give you that beautiful masterpiece. And so every policy we've announced is interwoven. Now you're looking to also attract some segment of what is almost $500 million in market valuation, the BPO ecosystem.
I see.
Business process outsourcing. Another President Mahama administration, Mahama version 1.0, and for allow me to do that because this is a tech conversation. Mahama version 1.0 between 2013 to 2016, on one of his outreaches, he made a pitch to American businesses to invest in Ghana. And at that time, a business that was handling the back end for the New York Police Department set up shop in the Pyramid House here in Accra. And so when a policeman in New York stopped you and was punching his device to give you the ticket, the data processing was happening here in Accra. That's what we want to do. We are centered in a unique geographic location where, with a 24-hour economy, you can do an early morning shift that serves that's serving the East. You can do a midday shift that's serving Africa and Europe, and you can do a late night shift that's serving the West. And so you need to attract the BPO ecosystem into the country. I've met with the BPO chamber already, and we're looking to attract more of such businesses in here. If you have the critical skill, with the new policy direction in the United States, especially around artificial intelligence, a lot of AI companies are looking to outsource their innovation and research and development R&D simply because there are tighter restrictions now in the US. They would only move to Ghana if you are able to give them the opportunity to invest here. Google, which is one of the big top 10 tech companies, has this AI lab situated here in Ghana. Why can't we get Alphabet? Why can't Meta? Why can't we get Twitter? This is where we're going.
I hear you. Business process outsourcing, knowledge process outsourcing, very good. Ghana is center of the world, but a couple of issues. The infrastructure. So, for example, you need reliable, accessible, affordable data. For this to work. A lot of people believe that data costs are still very high. The main service providers network appears clogged. So even if BPOs came here to set up and these people get employed, the slow pace of our data, how expensive it is, will probably give Ghana a disadvantage compared to other comparative countries. So what's your assessment of that issue, and how are you going to deal with it?
I agree that data should be and can be cheaper. And that's why I set up the data pricing committee. I gave them a 14-day mandate. They delivered their report in 13 days. Their report was a roadmap to achieving this. There's short-term, medium-term, and long-term policy plans that will be put in. The regulator is currently working with the MNOs to roll out some of the short-term measures. Part of that is, and even quality of service. Part of that is the reason why I granted MTN tech neutrality and granted them additional spectrum. I've made an additional offer of spectrum to Telecel as well to improve their network, because the truth of the matter is the networks are congested. And once the networks are congested, it affects quality of service. So I'm providing them more spectrum, and I'm going to drive a hard demand for quality of service. Failure to meet the quality of service, now that I've given them tech neutrality and additional spectrum, will result in very stiff fines.
I agree with that, but 2 points. AT and Telecel were both given tech neutrality 2 years ago.
Yes.
It hasn't done anything for them.
Because they failed to invest the critical necessary resources. You don't just get the tech neutrality or spectrum without investing in the network. Physical cash must be put in the network. And so I've had meetings with the CEO and the ownership of Telecel and said to them, we need to see a plan to invest cash. You see, people must bear in mind, and that's why I said, look, it's been, 60-something odd days. I'm dealing with 80 years of rotten mismanagement of the ministry. Before Telecel came into Ghana, there were conditions that were supposed to have been met. Those conditions were not enforced by my predecessor and by the previous government. There was critical investment that ought to have been put in the network, was not done. 80, an illicit marriage between two failing companies, Airtel and Tigo. Private investors who failed to invest in their businesses for 5 years. The businesses were basically end of life. Today, if I were to give 80 is 100% Ghana or government owned. If I were to give 80 5G spectrum today, they can't use it because their network cannot even support 4G. The core and billing are end of life. They support only 3G because nobody made a critical investment. We should not have stepped in the way we did.
So what should the minister have done with Airtel and Tigo?
Better
Allow
policy
them to collapse.
Better policy supervision, and then you should have allowed the market forces to take action. And what you would have done was to have built an assimilation package for the 300 workers, 300 core staff.
So that would have meant we had only MTN and then Telecel. If we are to follow that trajectory, if she was to follow that trajectory.
If you look at the size of our market, any business that's operating below 30% market share will not survive.
From what you're saying, only MTN will survive because the latest numbers I have, if you guys can put it up, for all the three categories, voice, revenue, market share, MTN has 86, Telecel has 11, the other two have 3. Customer market share, 81, 8. So basically, if what you're saying is true, in 3 years' time, only MTN will exist.
This is a result of poor policy decision by the previous minister.
No problem. What is the solution?
Should I explain to you?
No, I understand how we got here.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah.
SMP is supposed to have been a tool that was supposed to be used administratively to fix this. But you see, you don't just apply SMP without enforcing the other side of the coin. SMP is one side of a two-side coin. Because you see, when she imposed SMP on MTN, MTN had 62% market share. 2 years after imposing SMP, now they're over 74% market share. So have you done right with the SMP?
Enough. So you can even say that it has worsened the quality of service MTN gives.
Absolutely, because now their network is stretched. And so what you need to do is to inject critical investment. And that's what I've done. Because look, no matter how you have the scenario where as minister, should I stifle MTN?
No, but what I'm saying
stifle their growth.
Your decision is basically saying we need better service. MTN has the investment. Give them the neutrality so they can use their spectrum to do what they have to do.
Improve their quality of service. There. But then you also have to make sure that investment goes into the other vehicles to match up.
There are two issues here. By giving MTN the neutrality, inevitably AT and Telecel are going to be wiped out.
No.
That's number one.
No.
And number two, the whole 5G conversation with next-gen Infraco and the fact that they were supposed to have a 10-year exclusive for the 5G, MTN hasn't really told us they are going to go on that. So inevitably, your policy may also mean that there will be a challenge with what happens to that arrangement for the 5G as well.
Well, let's
deal with the first one. These two companies in the red and the blue, if the policy you've implemented, even though it will help customers in the short term, these two companies will be wiped out.
No. If the other players in the market have critical investment, they will attract customers. If you look at the numbers, for example, with Telecel, in the last 7 months, they've stopped losing customers. They've stagnated. So right now, they are no longer losing customers. They've plateaued in terms of that. What they now need is critical investment to begin to attract new customers. Because you see, if they had improved their network, whilst you're having challenges, when people are having challenges on network A, if network B is offering a better service, people follow quality of service. But if network B is not improving its network, then people are forced to stay with network A. So what you need to see is make sure that the critical investments, which were conditions precedents, before you did those sales are now properly enforced.
So if somebody doesn't have money to invest in his business, what can the government do? So for example, right now, Telecel, you're giving them net neutrality. You're basically saying to them, I'm not going to restrict you. You can use your 3G, 4G, do what you want to do to improve service. What if they don't have money?
Except 5G.
What will you do? Yes, they don't have money.
Well, there are regulatory tools that we can apply.
But this is capital. I don't have money. Are you going to say they should list?
Well,
if you say they should list, how do you know Ghanaians have money?
No.
Are you going to force the bank to give them money?
So Bernard, you see, you're assuming, don't forget that there is a shareholding that government holds in there.
And government hasn't played this part for the past how many years? I remember the last time government gave Telecel anything.
Well, that's incorrect. Government gave Telecel 4G spectrum.
Now it's all money. We are looking for money now. You give the person spectrum, but that spectrum.
Do you know the value of spectrum?
No, I know, but
currently, Telecel's indebtedness is in excess of $70 million to government. That's government money. That's your tax money. That's revenue. That should be coming to the regulator. That government is saying you hold it and use it to capitalize your business. Let me tell you something. If government were to tell MTN today that we want to give you spectrum and take shares, MTN would jump at it. So spectrum is gold in this business. It is equity in this business. And so it is incorrect when people say that government has not done anything for its shareholding in Telecel. I hold a completely different view to that.
You are saying that the spectrum is money. No problem. What I'm saying now is that with what situation we have,
yes,
if Telecel does not find additional capital injection,
yes,
and AT does not get a buyer or somebody who's supposed to deal with that 200 million debt, your policy means MTN will become the monopoly. That's the fact.
That's not the fact. We have a number of proposals.
No, I gave a condition. I said if.
Yes, and I'm saying that scenario will not play out because we have a number of offers on the table today from several investors who want to put inject capital into any of the two. Into any of the two.
And government will encourage that.
We're reviewing them because again, like I said, I'm not just going to jump at the first proposals that come to me because we've seen that happen with Telecel, for example, where $100 million was promised upfront. It's not come. And that, again, I say is the failure of the regulatory authority and policy maker because you gave the approval for the acquisition. And that acquisition was contingent on certain promises and commitments that were supposed to have been fulfilled. The reasons why they weren't fulfilled, only the former minister can explain.
My only concern is that if I'm an investor,
yes,
and I look at this chart,
yes,
and I see that MTN has now been given net neutrality to basically improve their network, which is great. MTN, I don't know how I'm going to compete. How will anybody want to put money? Don't forget that you see, and I'm not here to defend the previous minister, but my understanding of what she did with the 5G and that 10-year thing for the consortium was to try and sort of bring more competition into the space by giving an advantage to the smaller players.
Have you seen the rollout of 5G or 4G sites?
I know.
No, there is none. It was launched on the 1st of November last year, but there's nothing to show for it.
I know that AT and Telecel are in the process of connecting to the platform that they have built. I'm told they have 16 out of 22 sites ready. This is what I'm told. MTN hasn't said what they're doing. So my understanding from outside is that the minister is trying to give AT and Telecel a chance to be more competitive in the 5G space.
So
which is why the policy of using the...
No, Bernard, and that's why I'm explaining to you that, for example, if that was the minister's intention, then the understanding of the sector was limited.
Really?
Because there is no way you could do that, except today, and part of the conversation right now is to give a company like AT some kind of quasi-network to run on. Because on its own, its core and billing cannot do beyond 3G.
Okay.
Do you get the argument?
Yes.
Now, the point you're also making here is this. When you introduce certain dynamics, and I don't want to go into certain areas because those are policy issues. When you introduce certain dynamics, you need to know that there are push and pull factors. You need to be mindful that whatever, yes, giving tech neutrality to MTN to be able to do, again, tech neutrality doesn't allow them to do 5G.
Fair enough.
It allows them to do only 4G. We've had a 5G license holder for in excess of a year.
Yes.
It was launched on the 1st of November.
Yes.
In fact, this afternoon, I had a call with someone from the consortium. They have issues with the regulator, issues which I'm dealing with. but there are issues fundamentally that they have to deal with as well. They gave me a May deadline because I asked them for a deadline to operate. If they can't hold the country
to go live, you give them, but you've extended to June, right?
They met me in Barcelona and said May. Subsequently in Ghana, they said June. I've told them I will hold them to the June deadline because we need to run. But again, Bernard, let's be very mindful about one thing. 5G, as we speak today, does not have a consumer market case. 5G is industry specific. So with 5G, look,
we have only 1 million devices in Ghana that
absolutely.
can use 5G.
So 5G is not about people. The commercialization of 5G is not in people downloading movies or people doing video calls. It's in use cases like telemedicine, like your ports, like mining, like offshore oil drilling. Those are the specific use cases. And so you need to be minded that even today, if you were not to fix the fundamental problems with the networks, and even those other networks jumped on to a platform, if you were a mining company and both businesses, the significant market player and any of the other players were to make a pitch to you, what would be your preference automatically? And that's why I'm saying that you need to be guided and minded about how you even roll out the NGIC platform to correct the dystopia. Because again, and
I know you didn't agree with that in opposition, but now that you are in government, you have access to more information and you are seeing that there are many implications of any decision you make. Are you going to allow the 10-year to run for this shared platform to see out its lease? Or if the June deadline elapses and they are not able to go live, will you be minded to start considering your options?
All options are on the table, especially if the June deadlines are not met. I'm one who is not quick to just cancel contractual agreements. However, I'm very open to renegotiating and restructuring arrangements.
Because I think
the regulator has the legal power to amend the terms of any license that has been given. Because again, like I said, if by June we are still where, I don't expect us to be sitting where we are, but if that is the case, then we will be having a certain
what
conversation.
I'm told is that they've been able to set up 16 of their 22 cell sites. That seems reasonably.
For me, I want the plan, and again, I can check my notes from that meeting. The plan is very, very simple. There's supposed to be about 350 sites, both 4G and 5G.
So if by June you don't see a live operation of 5G, you will consider your options, which includes everything, including possible renegotiation or termination.
Like I said, I'm not one who jumps quickly to terminate, especially when there are implications for the state. However, I'm very open to renegotiating the terms of licenses.
Let me take a breather.
Not work for us.
I have an hour and a half today. Since you did 5 hours of vetting, 1.5 hours on this show is nothing at all. We'll read your questions as well. Lots of them are coming. We'll talk about the SIM registration. He will finish up on the point about 5G. And then we'll also talk about other issues in the sector, including the radio and the digital platforms for media and some of those other issues.
I mean, just for clarity's sake, from my notes, I was trying to get my notes. 350 sites, 50 of those sites are supposed to be 5G. There's supposed to be 200 to 250 sites in Accra, 100 to 150 sites in Kumasi. These are commitments.
You hold them by this.
Yeah, that were made.
But you're giving them up to June.
Yes.
To see where we are with this. We're still
I think it's only fair.
We'll be right back. This is the point of view. Please don't go away. We'll read your comments when we come back as well.